The spaceport colony was always noisy, always full of people rushing here and there. But in one corner of the market, far away from the bright lights, sat a small figure, a figure that many ignored. Some mocked and a few even feared. She was an alien, small in size, with thin arms, pale skin, and strange marks on her face. And her eyes, they were shut forever, for she was blind, born blind. Or maybe blinded by war, no one knew, no one cared. She begged for scraps. She whispered softly to passing strangers, but most turned away. Some threw crumbs as if throwing food to a street animal, and others just laughed. Her voice was calm but broken, and her hands reached out into the air, never touching what she wanted, always shaking as if she was lost in endless darkness. To many she was useless, nothing more than a beggar, a ghost of a ruined species. The colony was a hard place, no room for weakness, no mercy for the poor. The humans and other aliens who lived there believed in strength, in trade, in power. The blind alien girl had none of these. She had no family, no friends, no future. Rumors spread that her people had been destroyed in a war, that she was the last, that she carried some kind of curse. Children sometimes threw stones at her, while adults told each other not to touch her, not to help her. She became part of the colony's background, always there, always unwanted. But one man noticed her. He was a human. A soldier once, now just a worker guarding the docks. His name not important yet because to her, he was only the man who stopped. He passed her many times, and each time he saw her sitting there, fragile, dirty, hungry, something in his heart pulled at him, a small voice telling him to look again, to see what others refused to see. One evening, after his shift, he carried some food in a small container, and he stopped near her. She raised her head slowly, her closed eyes facing the sound of his steps. He placed the food near her hands, and for a moment she froze. "I don't need pity," she whispered, her voice shaking but firm. "It is not pity," he said softly. "It is food. Everyone needs food." Her hands moved slowly, searching the air, and finally they touched the container. She hesitated, then pulled it close. She ate carefully, silently, but then she said something strange. "You walk heavy, but your heart is quiet," she murmured. "I can hear it." "You are different," the man frowned, confused but curious. "You can hear my heart?" he asked. She nodded. "I hear many things, things others cannot. I hear voices in the dark, machines breathing, the sky whispering. I hear pain, fear, anger all around, but you sound calm." Her words gave him chills. Maybe she was only blind, maybe she was crazy, maybe she had some gift he could not tell. But in her voice he heard honesty, and in her empty eyes he saw something no one else dared to see. Hope. From that day, he gave her food whenever he could. He did not tell anyone because helping her was not popular, not wise. The colony leaders said she was worthless, a burden, but when he listened to her, when he watched her tilt her head toward sounds no one else noticed, he began to wonder if she was more than she seemed. One night, as the colony lights dimmed and the stars shone above, she whispered something that shook him. "The sky will burn soon," she said. He froze. "What do you mean?" "I cannot see the stars," she whispered, "but I hear them. They scream. Something is coming. Danger." He wanted to laugh, wanted to tell her she was imagining things, but her voice, her trembling hands, her still face, something about them made his heart beat faster. He left her that night with heavy thoughts. Maybe she was just a blind beggar speaking nonsense. Maybe she was more. He did not know. But in his chest he felt a strange weight, a strange pull, as if fate itself had placed her in his path. And then, days later, when the colony ground shook with a distant explosion from the skies above, her words echoed in his mind. "The sky will burn soon." She had been right. The blind alien girl was not just a beggar. She was something else, something no one yet understood. But he would find out. The colony was restless after the explosion in the skies. People whispered about war, pirates or rebels hiding nearby. Patrol ships had rushed out, searching the empty space, but no one found the source. Fear settled in the air like smoke, and everyone wanted someone to blame. The blind alien girl sitting in her corner of the market was ignored by most, but not by him, the human who had once been a soldier. He had heard her strange words before the blast, and they burned in his mind like fire. How did she know? That evening, when the market grew quieter, he approached her again. She sat still, hands folded in her lap, her eyes shut as always, but she tilted her head before he even spoke. "You came back," she whispered, her voice calm. Yes, he said, placing a small container of bread and fruit in front of her. You told me the sky would burn. And it did. How did you know? She touched the food with careful fingers, her head still tilted toward him. I hear what others cannot, she said. I cannot see light, but I hear the stars. I hear the hum of engines, the crack of weapons, the pain of people far away. The sky screamed before it broke. Did no one else hear it? He shook his head. No one heard. Only you. For a moment, silence stretched between them. He studied her face, the lines of sorrow, the dirt on her skin, the thinness of her body. She looked fragile, helpless, but her words carried a weight that made his chest tighten. You're not just a beggar, he said softly. She gave a bitter smile. To them, I am worse than a beggar. I am a ghost. My people are gone, my world burned. I live only because I was too weak to die. Her words stabbed at him. He had been a soldier long ago, fighting in forgotten wars, and he had seen many broken survivors. But something about her was different. She did not only survive, she carried secrets, heavy ones. Why stay here? He asked. Why not leave this colony, go somewhere safer? Safer? She almost laughed. There is no safe place for one like me. Wherever I go, they see only blindness, weakness, curse. Here I am invisible. That is safer than hate. The man leaned closer. But you're not weak. You warned me. You heard the danger before anyone else. That is not weakness. Her face softened, and for a moment she seemed younger, almost like a child clinging to a thread of hope. Do you really believe that? Yes, he said firmly. She reached out then, her hand trembling in the air. He hesitated, then let her touch his arm. Her fingers brushed his sleeve, light as a feather, then gripped with surprising strength. You are the only one who speaks to me, she whispered. The only one who listens. Others throw crumbs. You give me more. Why? He looked down at her pale hand on his arm. Because you matter, he said simply. Her blind eyes filled with something that might have been tears, but she quickly lowered her head, hiding her face. For a long time they sat in silence, broken only by the distant calls of the market. The man left her that night with heavier thoughts than before. He could no longer see her as a beggar. She was something else, something hidden, but what? The next day he returned again, and again after that. Sometimes he brought food, sometimes only his presence. She began to speak more, to share small pieces of herself. She told him about her people, once proud explorers, now erased by war. She told him about her gift or curse, how since childhood she had heard the whispers of machines and stars. Others thought she was mad. Even her own people had feared her. But she knew what she heard was real. You humans do not listen, she told him one night, her voice firm. You see with eyes, but you are blind to what lies beyond. I see nothing, yet I hear everything. Her words made him shiver. Was she only speaking in riddles, or was there truth in her strange sense? But while he grew closer to her, others in the colony grew suspicious. They noticed him visiting her, speaking with her. Whispers spread quickly. Why was a human wasting time with a cursed alien? Some called him foolish, others warned him she was dangerous. One evening as he left the market, a fellow worker stopped him. Why do you feed that thing? The man sneered. She is nothing. One day she'll bring trouble. Leave her to rot. But the human did not answer. He simply walked away, fists tight, anger burning in his chest. They all saw her as worthless. But he had seen something different. Her strength hidden inside her weakness. That night, as the colony slept, he could not. He lay awake, remembering her words, her trembling hand gripping his arm, her whisper that the stars screamed. She was not worthless. She was not weak. And though he could not explain why, he felt in his bones that she was important, that she carried something priceless within her. He did not know yet what fate awaited them both, but he knew one thing clearly. He would not turn his back on her. Not now. Not ever. The colony was restless after the explosion, but days passed and life forced itself back to normal. Ships still landed, traders still argued in the markets, and workers still marched to their shifts. Yet under all the noise, fear lingered like smoke, heavy and sharp. People whispered of enemies hiding in the dark, of battles coming closer. And in the shadows of the market, the blind alien girl still sat, quiet and unseen. To most, she was nothing. But to one man, the human who had once been a soldier, she was becoming something he could not ignore. Her words before the blast haunted him. She had known. She had warned him. So he returned to her again and again. On one evening when the market lights flickered low, he sat beside her. She turned her head before he even spoke. "You came back," she whispered. "Yes," he said, lowering his voice. "I need answers. You knew about the explosion. How?" Her lips pressed together as if she carried a heavy secret. For a moment she said nothing. Then slowly she lifted her face toward the sky she could not see. "The stars speak," she murmured. "Machines hum. Ships groan. Weapons crackle. I hear them all, even across the void. The night before the sky burned, I heard the enemy moving, heavy and hungry. I heard their engines breathing. Did no one else hear it?" He shook his head. "No one but you." She lowered her head again. "Then I am cursed, as they always said." "No," he said quickly, "you are gifted. You hear what others cannot. That's not weakness." But she only gave him a sad smile. "Gift or curse, it changes nothing. They will not believe me. They never did. Not even my own people." His heart ached at her words. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but deep down he knew she spoke the truth. People feared what they did not understand, and she was something no one understood. That night, as he walked her away from the noisy market, she told him more. Her people had been explorers, travelers of the stars until war crushed them. She was only a child when the bombs fell, her world turning to ash. She had run, guided not by sight but by the strange whispers she always heard. Those whispers saved her life, but survival came with pain. Wherever she went, she was feared. No one trusted a blind alien girl who claimed to hear voices in the dark. They called her broken, cursed liar. Even when she warned them of danger, they laughed until it was too late. "I live in shadows," she whispered as they walked. "That is all I have left," the human stopped. "No, you are more than shadows." She tilted her head, blind eyes searching his face, though she could not see it. "Do you believe that?" "Yes," he said firmly, "I do." For the first time her lips trembled and her hands shook. She clutched his sleeve. "Then do not leave me." "Everyone leaves me." The weight of her words struck him like a blade. He gripped her hand gently. "I won't leave." But even as he said it, footsteps echoed in the dark alley. A group of men appeared, workers from the docks. They looked at him, then at the alien girl, and their faces twisted with hate. "You're wasting time on her," one spat. "She's trouble." "Her kind always brings trouble." "She's harmless," the human replied, calm but firm. "Harmless," another sneered. "She cursed the colony. She knew about the blast. Maybe she called it down on us." The girl shrank back, her hands trembling, but the human stepped forward. "Enough, she is innocent. Leave her." The men glared at him, muttering curses, but finally left. Their footsteps faded into the night, leaving silence. The human turned back to the girl. "They hate me," she whispered, her voice small. "They fear you," he corrected. "Fear is not the same as hate. Fear means they know you are different." "Different is dangerous," she whispered. "Different can save lives," he said. She said nothing, but her trembling hand slipped into his, clinging tight. That night, as they sat in the shadows together, she whispered again of things only she could hear. "The enemy is not gone," she said. "They move in the void, closer each night. The colony sleeps blind and deaf. But I hear them. I hear the storm coming." His chest tightened. Her words sent chills down his spine. Was she right again? Was the colony truly in danger? He looked at her, fragile yet unbroken, blind yet seeing more than anyone else. She was not worthless. She was not cursed, she was priceless, and he knew then that he could not turn away, no matter what others thought. Because in the shadows of the colony, where no one else listened, he had found a secret, a fragile life that might hold the key to survival. And for the first time, he felt the truth. This was only the beginning. The colony was built on steel, fear, and rules. Rules kept people safe, or so the leaders claimed. Rules said outsiders were to be watched, distrusted, never trusted. And above all, rules said that weakness had no place here. So when whispers began to spread that a blind alien girl knew too much, that she had spoken of explosions before they came, the whispers grew sharp like knives. People muttered in the markets, pointing at her shadowed corner. Some spat as they passed her. Others crossed to the other side as if she carried a sickness. And soon, the whispers reached the ears of the authorities. One morning, as the sun burned weak through the dusty colony dome, guards marched into the market. Their boots struck the ground like drums. They moved straight toward the blind girl, and the human, her only protector, saw it happen before anyone else. "Stand up," the lead guard ordered, his voice hard. The alien girl did not move, her head tilted slightly, her closed eyes facing the sound. "Why?" she asked softly. "You are accused," the guard snapped. "You knew of the blast before it came. Speak the truth, are you a spy?" The crowd gathered, murmuring. Some shouted yes, others said nothing. Fear made them cruel. The human pushed forward, standing between her and the guards. "She's no spy," he said. "She's just a beggar. She can't even see. Leave her alone." But the guard's eyes narrowed. "Then why does she know things no one else knows? Why do you defend her, human? Unless you are hiding something too." The man's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists, but he forced them open. Fighting the guards meant death, yet leaving her meant betrayal. The blind girl's trembling hand reached for his sleeve. "Don't," she whispered, barely loud enough for him to hear. "Don't risk yourself." "I am nothing." He shook his head sharply. "You are not nothing." The guards moved closer. The crowd pressed in, hungry for a show. Whispers grew into shouts. "She's cursed," one voice screamed. "She's dangerous," another cried. Children threw stones that clattered against the steel floor. The human stood tall, his heart pounding. "If she is guilty," he said loudly, "then I am guilty too. I've spoken with her. I've given her food. If she is a spy, then so am I." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The guards froze. The alien girl clung tighter to his sleeve, her blind eyes wide with fear. "Why?" she whispered. "Because you matter," he whispered back. The guards hesitated, but the leader snarled. "Take them both." Chains were brought, rough metal that clinked as they were lifted. The girl whimpered, shrinking back. But before the chains could touch her, the human grabbed her hand and pulled. "Run," he hissed, and they ran. Through the shocked crowd, through narrow alleys, down into the underground tunnels where lights flickered weakly and shadows ruled. The guards shouted behind them, boots hammering against metal floors. But the blind girl ran with surprising speed. Her steps guided not by sight but by sound, every echo painting a path before her. "Left," she whispered. Pulling him, he followed. "Down," she urged. Finding a stairwell no sighted person would have noticed in the dark. They stumbled through passage after passage, until finally the shouts grew distant, swallowed by the endless tunnels. Breathless, the human leaned against the wall, his chest burning. The girl stood beside him, calm despite her shaking hands. "You saved me," she whispered. "No," he said, still gasping. "You saved us both. Without you, we'd be caught." She smiled faintly. "You trust me." "I do," he said firmly. Silence fell between them, heavy but warm. Somewhere above, the colony returned to its noise and suspicion. But down here in the shadows, there was only them. After a while, the girl spoke again. "You don't understand what you've done. By protecting me, you've marked yourself. They will hunt you now. You've thrown away your safety." "I know," he said. "But I'd rather be hunted with you than safe without you." Her lips trembled. For so long she had been alone, abandoned, cursed, and now someone had chosen her. Not because she was useful, not because she had secrets, but because he saw her. Tears slipped from her blind eyes. She turned her face toward him, her voice breaking. "You are the only one who sees me." His hand brushed her shoulder gently. "Then I will keep seeing you." No matter what, in that moment something shifted. No longer a beggar and a soldier. No longer a curse and a protector. They were allies now, bound by trust, bound by choice. But above them, in the steel streets of the colony, the guards spread their orders. Wanted posters were printed. Search patrols were doubled. The blind alien girl was now a criminal, and the human who had once been just another worker was now branded a traitor. They had chosen each other, and the whole colony had chosen to turn against them. The tunnels under the colony stretched like veins, dark and endless. Few dared to enter them, for they were filled with rust, dripping water, and the forgotten machines of older days. But here, among shadows and silence, the blind alien girl and the human found their only refuge. They sat on the cold floor, breath slow, ears sharp for footsteps that might follow. The man's chest still burned from running, but he forced himself calm. The girl sat close, her pale hands resting on her knees, her eyes shut as always. Yet even in this darkness she seemed more aware than him. "Are they still searching?" he whispered. She tilted her head, listening. A faint hum filled her ears, one he alone could not hear. "Yes," she whispered back. "The guards walk above us. Their boots are heavy. Their voices are sharp, but they do not know these tunnels. We are safe for now. The man let out a slow breath. He studied her face, the calmness in her blind eyes. For so long he had thought her helpless. But here in the dark she was the one guiding him. You are not weak, he said quietly. Her lips curved in a sad smile. I have always been told the opposite. Then they were wrong. She turned toward him, her expression soft, uncertain. Why do you believe in me? Because you keep proving them wrong, he said firmly. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then she reached out, her hand trembling as it touched the wall beside her. Do you hear it? She asked. He pressed his ear to the wall, but he heard nothing but the faint drip of water.
No, he admitted. I do, she whispered.
The machines above, they hum. The colony sleeps, but its heart beats still. I hear its pain. And beyond that, farther away, I hear the sky again. Heavy engines, not ours. They move closer. The man stiffened. Enemy ships? She nodded slowly. Yes, more than before, many. The storm is coming. His chest tightened. He wanted to dismiss her words, to say she was imagining things. But she had been right before. She had heard danger before anyone else. Could he ignore her now? He leaned closer. Then we must warn the colony. They will not believe us, she said flatly. Maybe not, he admitted. But if they are unprepared, many will die. You can help them. You can save them. Her blind eyes lowered. Save them? The same people who spit on me. The same ones who wanted me chained? Why should I save them? The man had no easy answer. He looked at her, seeing the pain written across her face. She had suffered so much, abandoned by her people, hated by strangers. Why should she care for those who cursed her? Because you are better than them, he said softly. Because you are priceless, even if they cannot see it. Her hands trembled. Priceless. No one had ever called her that before. To most, she was worthless. To him, she was everything. She turned her face toward him. If I help, if I guide them, will you stay by my side? He placed his hand over hers, steady and sure. Always. Her lips trembled into the smallest smile. For the first time, she believed. That night, she showed him the truth of her gift. She led him deeper into the tunnels, past broken pipes and fallen walls until they reached an old chamber filled with dead machines. She placed her palm on a rusted panel, her head tilted, listening. They still breathe, she whispered. Not alive, but not silent. I hear the hum. I hear where power still flows. To the human, it was nothing but ruins. To her, it was a map. With every hum and crackle, she traced paths through the underground. She guided him through shortcuts, avoiding patrols, avoiding traps. More than once, she pulled him back just as a guard's light swept across a tunnel. You're leading us like you can see, he said in awe. I cannot see, she answered, but I hear more than sight will ever give. Step by step, his respect for her grew. She was not a burden. She was not cursed. She was his compass in the dark. And without her, he would already be caught. When at last they reached a hidden exit near the edge of the colony, she stopped, her body tense. They are close, she whispered. The fleet. Many ships, too many. If the colony does not prepare, it will burn. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we must make them listen. She shook her head. They will not listen to me. Only to you. Then I will speak, he said. But they must know the truth, that it was you who warned them, you who guided me. Without you, I am blind. Her blind eyes lifted toward him, wide and wet with tears. For the first time, someone saw her not as broken, but as priceless. And in that moment, she whispered the words that sealed their bond. Then we faced the storm together. Above them, the colony lights flickered as if trembling. Far beyond the dome, engines roared in the void, a fleet preparing to strike. And in the shadows, a blind alien girl stood ready. Not as a beggar, not as a curse, but as the only hope. The colony above ground still lived in denial. Traders shouted prices, guards patrolled with sharp eyes. Children laughed in the alleys, but under the surface, danger moved closer. The blind alien girl had heard the hum of engines in the sky. A fleet far too large, far too powerful. She had whispered her warning to the human who believed her. But now he faced the hardest test of all, convincing the colony. He led her carefully back through the tunnels until they reached an access point near the command hub. She stayed hidden in the shadows, her pale hands gripping the wall, her blind eyes trembling with fear. They will not believe you, she whispered. They will laugh. They will call you traitor. They might, he said, his jaw tight. but I must try. So he went alone into the command chamber. Officers looked up as he entered, their expressions already cold. The leader, a stern woman with eyes like steel, folded her arms. "Why are you here?" she asked. The human stood tall. "There is danger coming. A fleet, the enemy. We must prepare." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, then laughter rippled across the room. "A fleet? From where?" One scoffed. "Our patrols see nothing." "You expect us to act on shadows?" Another sneered. The leader narrowed her eyes. "And how do you know this?" He hesitated, then spoke clearly. "She told me. The alien girl you call cursed. She hears what we cannot. She warned me before the last blast. She is right again." "The enemy is close." The room fell silent, then erupted with anger. "You trust her?" One officer barked. "A beggar?" "She is dangerous," another shouted. "Perhaps you are working with her," a third accused. The leader's eyes grew cold. "You defend a traitor and bring her words into my hall? You disgrace yourself." The human's fists clenched. "Listen to me. If we do nothing, the colony will burn. She is not cursed. She is our only chance." "Enough," the leader snapped. "Guards, remove him." Hands gripped his arms, dragging him back. He struggled, shouting, but his voice was drowned by scorn. They threw him into a holding cell, the door slamming shut with finality. Alone in the dark, he pressed his head to the wall. His heart pounded with rage and helplessness. They would not listen. They had already judged him, but in the silence he heard a whisper. "Do not give up." He lifted his head. The alien girl stood at the bars, her blind eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. How she had slipped past the guards he did not know, but her presence filled him with hope. "They mocked me," he said bitterly. "They locked me away." "They fear what they cannot see," she whispered. "But I see what they cannot hear, and I will not leave you." She reached through the bars, her fingers brushing his hand. "I will free you." He shook his head. "It's too dangerous," but she moved swiftly, her ears guiding her to the controls. She pressed her palm against the old panel, listening. The machine hummed, wires buzzing softly. She tilted her head, then pressed a sequence of buttons with surprising precision. Sparks flickered and the lock clicked open. The cell door slid wide. He stared at her in shock. "How did you—" "I heard the machine's breath," she said simply. "It told me its rhythm. I only followed." For a moment he could only smile. She was full of surprises. They slipped into the shadows, moving through the halls. She guided him away from patrols, listening to each footstep, each hum of lights. Without her, escape would have been impossible. At last they reached a side exit, breathing the cool night air under the dome. The human stopped, staring at her. "You risked everything to save me," he whispered. She shook her head. "You risked everything first when you chose me. I could not let you face the dark alone." His chest tightened. For so long she had been told she was worthless, cursed. Yet here she was, saving him, carrying him forward. "Then what do we do now?" he asked. She tilted her head, listening to the sky. Her face grew pale. "We prepare. They are close. The fleet moves faster. By dawn the colony will see the truth." He looked toward the stars beyond the dome, though he could see nothing yet. He believed her. He had to. The colony might doubt. The leaders might mock, but he had heard her warning, felt her strength, and when the enemy came, they would all know. For in the silence of the night, engines roared faintly across the void, a storm creeping ever closer. The blind alien girl clutched his arm, her voice soft but steady. "Tomorrow they will hear what I hear. Tomorrow they will know I am not cursed. Tomorrow they will learn what you already know, that I am priceless." The human tightened his grip on her hand, his heart fierce. "Then tomorrow, we fight together, above them, unseen by all but her." The sky trembled with the approach of war. The dawn above the colony was not peaceful. Alarms wailed, red lights flashed, and the ground shook as if the stars themselves had fallen. The enemy fleet had arrived, massive ships blotting out the sky, their weapons glowing like fire in the void. The colony, so proud, so certain of its safety, now trembled. Leaders barked orders, soldiers rushed to their posts, and civilians screamed in panic. Yet amid the chaos, one truth stood clear. The blind alien girl had been right all along. The human stood beside her on the high ridge of the tunnels, overlooking the burning horizon. His chest burned with both fear and determination. "They finally see," he muttered. She tilted her head, listening. Yes, but they still do not understand. They cannot fight this alone. They need me. Her voice shook, but her body stood straight, stronger than ever. For so long she had been called cursed, worthless. Now the fate of thousands rested on her gift. They hurried toward the command hub, dodging crowds of terrified people. Soldiers aimed weapons at them, but the human shouted above the noise. "She can save you," he cried. "Listen to her. She hears the enemy before they strike." The commander, the same stern woman who had mocked him before, turned in disbelief. "This again? You dare—" But then the alien girl raised her hand. "Be silent," she said softly. Her blind eyes lifted. "The ships, they move. Not toward the shields. Toward the south flank. Weak metal, old machines. They will strike there first." A moment later, the sky above the southern wall erupted in fire as enemy blasts rained down. The ground quaked, metal split, screams filled the air. The commander's face paled. She looked at the girl in shock. "She was right," the human said coldly. "She has always been right." Silence swept through the room, heavy and sharp. At last the commander nodded. "Then guide us." The girl stepped forward, her trembling hands reaching for the console. She touched the controls, her head tilted, listening. Every hum, every crackle of energy painted a picture in her mind. "Move the gun batteries to the east," she whispered. They circle wide, preparing to flank. "Redirect shields to Quadrant 3. Power is weak there." Officers rushed to obey, shouting orders, moving men and machines. Moments later, the enemy fleet's second strike met reinforced defenses, the blasts scattering harmlessly against fresh shields. Hope flickered. Again and again. She spoke each command born not from sight but from sound. Signals in the void. Engines humming, weapons charging. She heard them all, and with every order the colony fought back harder. The human stayed beside her, steady, his hand resting on her shoulder whenever her voice faltered. She was their compass now, their guide in the storm. Hours of fire and smoke passed. Ships burned in the sky, falling like comets. Soldiers cheered between screams. And through it all, the blind alien girl stood strong, her whispers guiding thousands. At last, the enemy fleet broke. Their engines roared one final time as they retreated into the endless black. The colony dome shook with victory cries, but in the quiet after battle, the girl sank to her knees, her body trembling, her face pale. She had given everything. The human caught her before she could fall. "You did it," he whispered, his voice rough with pride. "You saved them all." Her blind eyes filled with tears. "No," she whispered. "We saved them. You believed in me when no one else did. Without you, I would still be in the shadows." He held her close, his chest tight. Around them, soldiers and civilians gathered, staring at the fragile figure who had saved their lives. The commander stepped forward, her voice softer than ever before. "Forgive us. We called you cursed. We treated you as nothing. Yet you were our light in the dark." The girl shook her head weakly. "I do not want their pity. I only want to belong." The commander knelt. "Then you belong with us." "You are priceless," the crowd murmured, some with shame, some with awe. For the first time, no one mocked her. No one threw stones. They bowed their heads in respect. The human helped her stand, his voice steady. "She is not cursed. She is not weak. She is proof of what humanity can be. We saw her worth when no one else did. And that is why we survived." The blind alien girl stood tall, tears shining on her cheeks. For so long she had been nothing but a beggar in the dark, unwanted and unloved. Now she was the voice of survival, the reason an entire colony still breathed. And though the scars of war remained, though the stars still whispered of danger, she no longer felt alone, because one human had believed in her, because mercy had been stronger than fear, and because sometimes the galaxy's most priceless gift is hidden where no one dares to look.